everyone, it's Miss Bonzacor back with another video for you. I hope you're enjoying these and they're a little better than maybe the Khan Academy ones. So hopefully I'm putting some energy into it and you are understanding the standards. Today we're going to focus on adding integers. Okay, so we know what an integer is. We know that it could be positive or negative. We know absolute value is the distance away from zero. We know how to graph integers. We know how to graph the ordered pairs. So we're ready to go. We're ready to now go into this new standard of adding integers. So the statement's going to be, I can add integers. Okay, so what's the rule? Well, let's figure out what we have. First off, we're going to have positive numbers. Okay, so 8 plus 5, those are both positive integers. 27 plus 112, 13 plus 7. So we already know how to do this. We just don't have the rule written down. The rule for this is two positives added together will be the positive. So we've been doing this since kindergarten. We've been adding two numbers together and getting a positive number. So the rule for this one is positive plus positive equals a positive. Let's look at another rule. Okay, let's see this one. How is this one different than the one we just did? Well, this one has negatives now. It's a negative plus a negative. So you got negative 3 plus negative 11. Negative 25 plus negative 75. Negative 10 plus negative 13. So this rule is that now we have two negatives and we're adding them together. So a negative plus a negative is a negative. So if you have two negatives and you are being asked to add, then you just add them and keep the negative sign. The next rule gets a little tricky. Okay, let's take a look at some of the examples and see if we can come up with a rule. All right, so for these, I see that there's a lot of different negatives and positive numbers, but I'm going to look at the first example. With the first example, I see a negative 3 and a positive 11. And when I do that and I do the adding, all of a sudden I get 8. What? How do I get 8 from negative 3 plus 11? Think about the rule. Okay, think about a rule that we would need. These are two different signs that I'm adding together. Let's see how the next one is. It's a 25 plus a negative 75. And that answer is negative 50. Okay, let's try another one. We got a 9 plus a negative 12. That gives us a negative 3. All right. A negative 5 plus a 7. And then that's going to give us a 2. Think about it for a minute. See if you can come up with a rule that works for every single one of these examples. When I look at it, I see a negative and a positive, and an 11 and a number 3. What they do is they subtract the two numbers. So 11 minus 3 is 8. So now you have an 8. But the problem is it a positive or is it a negative? Okay. How we know it's a positive is because we use the bigger number. Okay, we use the bigger number. And 11 is the bigger number from 11 and 3. And 11 has a positive next to it. So it's positive 8. The next one, two different signs, so we're actually going to subtract these numbers. 75 minus 25, so that's how I got 50. But why is there a negative? Because the 75 is bigger. Okay, the absolute value of 75 is bigger, so I have a negative 50. Two different signs, so I'm going to subtract. Just pretend that sign isn't even there. I'm just going to do 12 minus 9, 3. Why is it a negative 3? Because 12 is bigger. So the 12 has a negative in front of it. Negative 5 plus 7, two different signs, so I'm going to subtract. 7 minus 5. I get 2. Why is it a positive 2? Because 7 is bigger than the 5. So that would be a positive answer. So we're looking at it where I'm going to pretend that there's no signs there. I subtract. 11 minus 3 is 8. The 11 is bigger, and that is positive. I'm going to pretend there's no signs, but I'm going to subtract. 75 minus 25 is 50. I keep the negative because the 75 is bigger. So the rule for this is positive plus a negative equals subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. A negative plus a positive also means to do subtraction and keep the sign of the larger number. We're going to do some more practice with these. Okay, so adding integers. Rule number one, pretty basic. Positive plus positive equals a positive. Negative plus a negative equals a negative. That's it. Add them up, keep the sign. But if they are two different signs and you're adding, you are going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So positive plus a negative. So here's an example of a positive number and a negative number. 9 plus negative 12, so two different signs. I'm going to subtract. 12 minus 9 is 3. But what sign do I keep? The negative, because the 12 is bigger. Over here, I have a negative plus a positive. I'm going to do 7 minus 5 is 2. Why is it a positive 2? Because 7 is bigger and it's positive. 4 plus negative 2, the rule says to subtract because it's two different signs, so I get 2. And then 4 plus negative 2 would be a positive 2 because 4 is bigger. So two rules, same signs, add and keep the sign. Different signs, you subtract them, but keep the sign of the larger number. Here's another way to look at it. Two positives added together as a positive. Two negatives added together as a negative. The bigger circle here is a positive, meaning that's the bigger number. So a positive plus a negative will be a positive. When the bigger number is a negative, positive plus the negative would become a negative. So that means that's the larger number. So what do you do when you have two different signs? You subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Here's another example. Adding together, you get a positive. When there are two negatives, you get a negative when you add them up. Positive and a negative, you got to subtract and keep the larger integer sign. Negative and a positive, you're going to really subtract, but keep the larger integer sign. All right, this is one that I actually found online, and I thought it was interesting because there was a mistake. And I want to see if you can know, or if you could see where the mistake is. So when I'm solving, I do negative 3 plus 1 equals negative 2. So these are two different signs, so I'm going to use the rule where it says subtract 3 minus 1, so there's your 2, and keep the sign of the bigger number. So 3, and there's a negative, so negative 2. So that one's good. All right, 5 plus negative 2. Two different signs, so they did subtract, but they kept the negative. Which one should they have kept? A positive. So 5 plus negative 2 should be a positive 3. 5 is bigger than the 2, and 5 has a positive. So yeah, see, even the online makes mistakes. You got to be careful with that. Don't trust everything online. Okay. Let's practice. All right, so the first one, 8 plus 7. Okay, that's easy, right? That's two positive numbers. Let's add them up, 15. Number 2, two negatives, so we're going to add them up. 1 plus 9 is 10, and keep the negative. Number 3, I have two different signs, so I have to subtract, so it's definitely 11 minus 7 is 4. Which one's bigger, 7 or 11? And that has a negative by it, the 11, so it's negative 4. Negative 8 plus 12, two different signs, so subtract. 12 minus 8 is 4. Which sign am I going to keep? 12 is bigger, so I'm going to keep the, I'm going to keep the positive 4. Next one, two different signs, so negative 2, negative 14, I'm going to add them up. That is going to get me negative 16. I keep that sign. Two different signs, I subtract. 28 minus 14 is 14, but which sign is it going to be? 28 is bigger, so it's going to be a negative 14. Negative 5 plus 5, we're going to subtract the 2 because it's two different signs, and 5 minus 5 is 0, so there's no positive or negative for that. Negative 19 plus 24, two different signs, so I'm going to actually subtract, and then which sign am I going to keep? The negative or the positive? Positive because 24 is bigger, so positive 5. Part 1 of the integer operation song is a tune to the Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So this is the first part of what we are going to talk about, because the next week we're going to talk about subtracting. So this is just a little way to help you, and you sing it to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Here we go. Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the larger number and then you'll be exact. So I think that's pretty cool. Let's try it together. Here we go. Ready? Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the larger number and then you'll be exact. So it's kind of cool to think about that. The first part is the first rule, same signs add and keep. Next one, different signs you have to subtract, but you keep the sign of the larger number and then you'll be exact. So I hope that helps a little bit. Wednesday, the 5-6 assignment, complete 6th grade standards N1 on IXL.com. Then you're going to complete the adding integers forms assessments. It's a quick 10 questions. I want to see how you are with the 2 rules for adding and subtracting. So take a look at that, and that is your Wednesday assignment. Tomorrow you're going to practice more with adding integers. Bye, guys.